Hello everyone, welcome to the theory class. Today we will be covering lesson 26. So before we get started, let's do our evaluation. Right? Ready? Number 1, furious. She was furious that he let the cat out. Furious. Number 2, everyone. Number 3, luckier. She feels luckier than anyone else in the group. Number 4, king. He played the king in the play. Number 5, storm. It is a bad storm. Number 6, the brief anybody. Anybody may go. Anybody. Number 7, alarm. Did you set off the alarm? Number 8, trivia. It is fun to play a trivia game about your knowledge. Number 9, germ. Don't pick up the germ. Number 10, illness. Her illness was unknown at that time. Number 11, something. Something must be done about it. Number 12, studio. We recorded at the studio. Number 13, brilliant. That is a brilliant idea. Number 14, bang. We heard a loud bang next door. Number 15, nobody. Nobody was at the meeting. Nobody. All right, let's take a look, see how you did. We'll compare it. I'll point to the board and the keyboard chart. I want you to read your steno notes on your screen and see how you did. Okay, number 1, furious. That's going to be initial F, long U-R. Come back for Y-U-S. Number 2, the brief everyone, E-F-R-N. Number 3, luckier, L-U-K. Come back for Y-E-R, luckier. Number 4, king, K-I-N-G. Number 5, storm, S-T, long O-R-M. Number 6, anybody, N-I-B. Number 7, alarm, A, come back for L-A-R-M. Make sure it's just a short A. Use a long A, that's going to be the article A. Number 8, trivia, T-R-I-V, come back for Y-A, trivia. Number 9, germ, initial J-E-R-M. Number 10, illness, which we use the Y, illness, Y-I-L. Come back for final N-S. If you just use I-L, that would be the phrase I will. So that's why we have to use yill. Just like if I say I am ill, we're going to write it as Y-I-L. Okay, come back for final N-S. All right, number 11, something, S-M, final G. Number 12, studio, S-T, long U-D, stewed. Come back for Y, long O. Number 13, brilliant, B-R, short I-L. Come back for Y-A-N-T, brilliant. Number 14, bang, B, long A-N-G. Number 15, nobody, initial N, long O-B, nobe. All right. Moving on to lesson 25. Today is a very important lesson. They're all important, but today you're going to get a very important concept. They're numbers over 100 and dollar amounts. All right, so numbers over 100 and dollar amounts. So try not to be overwhelmed if you look at the handout. I know it looks like a lot of numbers, but don't let that scare you. Okay, basically when you are writing, you're writing exactly what you hear. So when somebody says 1,000, you don't have to sit there, or 1 million, 1 billion, you don't have to sit there and wonder how many zeros are in that number. You are strictly writing exactly what you hear. So with that being said, let's look at 26.1. These are briefs in connection with numbers. So before we even get started, we're going to look at these briefs. We have briefs for numbers. So if I give a number and I say 100, the way you're going to write that is H-U-N, hun. If I say 1,000, that's written as T-H-O-U, thou. If I say million, that's going to be initial M, final L. If I say billion, that's going to be written as initial B, final L. So think of these as briefs, and this is what we use when we are writing numbers. So it makes it a lot easier. Let's see, Mrs. Stalvin. So basically, you want to use these briefs anytime you're dealing with numbers. Okay, so you don't have any guesswork as to how many zeros are in that number. You're strictly writing what you hear. Okay, now let's move over to 26.2. When you do your homework, though, I do want you to write that out. Okay, so write hun, comma, thou, comma, mill, comma, bill, comma, okay, because we want you to get used to those. Think of them as briefs. You want to memorize those just like you would a brief. Okay, looking over at 26.2, it's an actual number drill. So if you notice, these do not have dollar signs. These are strict numbers with no dollar signs. We're going to get into that in the next section, 26.3. So 26.2 are strict numbers. So like I said, if you look at the first number, 465, that is spoken as 465. Now, if someone were to just say 465, as in I live at 465 Oak Avenue, then you would just do 46, come back for 5. Okay, but we're talking about actual numbers, as in dollar numbers. And not always do we say dollars. Sometimes we'll just say, I made 465. And we don't say the dollars. So we're going to get into the dollars in just a minute. And the way that we would write 465 is by doing it this way. I would strike 4. Hun is spoken, so I'm going to, or 100 is spoken, so I'm going to write that as hun, H-U-N, hun. 65, 6, and then come back for the 5. And that's what it's showing you right there. Those little slashes mean you have to come back for the next number or brief. So it's very nice because, again, with numbers, you don't have to worry about, are there any zeros in there? You're strictly writing what you hear. 465. So you're writing 4, H-U-N for 100, come back for 6, come back for 5. Okay, let's look at the next number, 723. So I'm writing 7, hun, H-U-N, come back for 23. And I'm still going to apply all the same rules that we learned in the past. If two numbers can be written together, you want to do that. You don't want to write any more than two numbers together. So, if I have 2, 3, 4, I'm not going to write those together. Okay, you only want to write 2 at a time. So in this case, it's 723. So you're just going to come back with a 2, 3. Okay, let's look at the next line. 941. 9 hun for 100, 41. 887. So let's do it again. 887. And again, you want to make sure your fingers are accountable for the correct numbers. My pinky's 1, ring fingers 2, middle fingers 3, index fingers 4 with my left hand. 5 and 0 are going to be struck with my thumb and my middle finger up at the top here. Then over with my right hand, 6, index finger, 7, middle finger, 8, ring finger, 9, pinky. Okay. All right. Looking at line 3, 4,529. So again, don't let that long number scare you. You're writing exactly what you hear. 4,529. 4,000, you're writing it as thou. 4,500, so 5, hun, 29 together because you can. Okay, let's look at the next number. 7,182. 7, thou, 182. All right, line 4, 5,622. 9,347. Okay, line 5, you'll see that it says 34,613. 646,745. Notice there's no cents and no dollars. We're going to get into that in a minute. Line 6, 2,300,000. This is a great example of what I was talking about. You do not have to worry about how many zeros are in that number. Okay, we're strictly writing what we hear. So 2,300,000. I'm going to write 2 mil, my initial and final L. That's our brief for a million. 2,300,000. So 3 hun thou, thou, and that's it. Okay. Now, if something doesn't transcribe correctly with your software, if it's a test, once the test is over and you're in the edit mode, you would simply read your steno and change it to the correct way to transcribe a number. And we're going to go over that in a minute as well. But you would just rely on your notes, your steno notes. Let's look at the next number, 53,512,000. Line 7. 3,489,978. Okay. Line 8, 6,192,123. Notice 2 3s together because we can write it together. Line 9. Now we're in the billions again. Don't let that scare you. 5,800,000,000. Let me show you how that would be written. 5,800,000,000. So I'm going to do 5 bill 8 hun million. Very easy. You're writing exactly what you hear. And the last number, 3,450,600,000. So you're writing exactly what you hear. Because there's no dollars that were spoken, so we don't have to worry about dollars. Notice there's no dollar sign in the front of these numbers because it wasn't spoken. And we're going to get more into that in just a second. Okay, so let's look over at the next section, 26.3. This is a number drill using dollars and cents. So the last one had no dollars and cents. This one, we're going to actually say dollars. Some of them have cents. Now, the rule with this one is we always come back for dollars or cents, if cents is spoken, in a separate stroke. So if you have to write that down, please do. The way that if dollars is spoken, the way we write dollars is the final DZ. Okay, so let's look at the first number, $54. How do I know that dollars was spoken? Because there is a dollar sign at the beginning of that number. That's how we know dollars is spoken. If there's no dollar sign, then dollars is not spoken. So it would just be 54. But there's a dollar sign, so that means they said $54. So the way that we're going to write that is 5, 4, and then come back for $4, final DZ. Okay, let's look at the next number. $73. 7, lift up, come back for 3, lift up, come back for final DZ. Even if you can strike that DZ up in the same stroke, we do not want you to do that. It's kind of like the plurals, the ing words, final ed words. Oh, and you know, I could technically do $73. We don't want you to do that. At least in theory, we don't. I mean, once you get into speeds, that's going to be up to you. We want you to be accurate. One thing with numbers is, if you are not accurate with a number, chances are you're not even going to know that you made a mistake. So numbers are crucial to get down with ages, addresses, social security numbers, phone numbers. You know, and if you make a mistake on a word, chances are you're going to be able to figure it out because it's going to be a word that isn't going to make sense. But with numbers, where you wouldn't even know that you made a mistake. If I were to say I was born in 1978 and I accidentally struck 1979, I wouldn't even know that I made that mistake because it would still make sense. So you have to remember that. So it's very important that you practice these numbers. Okay. All right. So 73, let's see, we talked about $73. Yes. So 7, lift up, 3, lift up, come back for final DZ. $523. Let's write that. 5, lift up, come back for hun, lift up, come back for 23, lift up, come back for final DZ for dollars. $627. Now, it's very important. Let's look at line 5. Line 5, you can see that we've got cents. $98.24. How do I know? Because we've got a decimal and then a number after it. That's the cents. It's very important to not say and. If you're saying this number to yourself, do not say and. It's not $98.24. It's $98.24. So if anybody is reading to you numbers, you need to let them know, do not say and. If you say and, or if somebody says and, you're going to have to use your brain for and. Okay? And you have to actually write out the number. When you go to transcribe, it has to be spelled out because they said and. So if you have to write that down so you don't forget. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the next, in 20, let's see. Yeah, after 26.6. After that section, we'll talk more about that, transcribing numbers when they say and. So in this case, it would be $98.24. So we're going to strike 9, come back for 8, $98.24, and then come back for cents. Even though you could technically do 24S, you're going to strike 24, lift up, and then strike your final S. Always come back for a separate stroke for cents. $87.42. It's not $87.42. Okay, so let's do that one. $87.42. $763.67. $834.12. $2,665. There's no cents there. $982,902. $5,299,256. Okay, let's look at line 12. Again, look at all the zeros. Don't let that scare you. Okay, it's $9,200,000,000. So you're writing exactly what you hear. $9,200,000,000. Okay. All right. Only time you have to think about the zeros is when you go back to, if it were a test and you have to go back and transcribe it. Let's say your software didn't transcribe it, you would have to read your notes and say, okay, that says $9,200,000,000, and then you have to figure out how many zeros. But at the time when you're writing it, you're writing exactly what you hear. Okay. All right. Again, let's go to the last one. 4,540,281.50. Okay. So again, I encourage you to have somebody read or dictate numbers to you to get the practice, but just tell them, do not say and. Now, if they happen to say $11.50, you would write that as 1, come back for 1, $11 and 50 cents. So you have to write and then if you were to go and transcribe it, you would have to actually use words for the number and spell out ELEVEN dollars because they said and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay. All right. Looking at 26.4, this is a number drill using mixed numbers, meaning some will have dollars, meaning the dollar sign, and you say dollars spoken, and some will have cents spoken. Okay. Let's see here. So again, I encourage you to have somebody dictate these to you. It will really help. Now, another helpful hint that I did when I was in theory, before I got really good at numbers, like for instance, I would take the first number and line 54, and let's see, I'm sorry, line 1, where it says 453, I would write that above in steno. I would write /hun/5/3. And that way, when I'm going to write it, I can see it. I know I'm writing it correctly. It also kind of teaches you, I don't know, there's something to be said about physically writing it in steno. And I wouldn't do that with all of the lessons, but with numbers, it just kind of really cements it and helps to really get that down when you write it above the way that you would write it in steno, because we do write it in steno for you in 26.3, but 26.4, if you notice, it's just the numbers. It's not done for you in steno. So if you want, I encourage you to go through and write, the steno above it. It'll really help out. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Make sure I'm not missing anything here. All right. So let's see here. We're still on 26.4. Let's see. Let's look at line 3. Again, let's look at the second number over. That's 5,246,253,000. So if it helps you, write the steno above it. Okay. Now again, if there's no numbers or dollar sign, then you know dollars is not spoken. Okay. If you see a dollar sign, that means that they said dollars. So you're writing your final DZ. Okay. All right. 26.5 is a sentence drill. Again, if that makes you more comfortable, above the number, write it in steno. First sentence says count until you get to 100. If that helps, write above it 1 / and then HUN. Okay. All right. Let's see. Line 3, first sentence, it says over 12 million live here. Again, there's no dollars. We're not talking about an actual dollar amount. We're just talking about people. Over 12 million live here. So you don't even have to worry about the zeros. You're just writing 12 come back for initial M, final L. Okay. Line 5, first sentence says, we paid $147.24 for it. Paid is going to be written as P long A D. You do not have to come back for the final D. Okay, paid is just one stroke. I always learned that because I told myself, well, pay is P-A-Y, paid is P-A-I-D. So they're two different spellings, so that kind of was a hint to me that that was the reason that I didn't have to come back for the final D. So if that helps you to remember, write it down. Okay. All right, let's look at line 10. It says, can you, and again, don't forget to phrase. We can phrase can you. If you have to go through, underline all your phrases. Can you save $1,500? It's important that you don't say $1,500. We know that it's $1,500 because there's a comma there after one. $1,500. Okay, so we're going to write 1,000, T-H-O-U, and then our 5, and then our hun, and then our final DZ, $1,500. Okay, not $1,500. Now, if there wasn't a comma there, then you would say $1,500. That's how we know the difference, and we're going to go through that in just a minute. Okay, that's the difference between $1,500 and $1,500. Okay, let's look at line 11. The bill was $7,300,000,000. So $7,300,000,000. Okay. All right. And let's see. $26.6. It says use dollar, D-L-A-R, the brief D-L-A-R, think of it as a brief, for the word dollar, and K-R-E-N-T, which is our C. Don't forget, our C is the K-R, for the word cent, C-E-N-T, when they are spelled out. So there's times where we want to tell our software, we want the word spelled out, okay? So when we want to tell the software that we want that word dollar or cent spelled out, we have to use D-L-A-R. We can't use the final D-Z, otherwise it would just think that we want the dollar sign, and we don't want that, or the decimal for the cent, okay? Again, cent, talking about money, is written as K-R-E-N-T because we don't want it to conflict with sent, S-E-N-T. I sent the letter. Okay, so think of those as briefs. So here's some examples of why you would use dollar or cent that's spelled out. Pay the dollar fee. We want dollar spelled out, so we're going to use D-L-A-R. Okay, D-L-A-R. Just think of that as a brief. Okay. He paid hundreds of dollars. Again, in that case, we want dollars. It's used as just a word. I need just 1 cent. Okay, again, K-R-E-N-T. It was many dollars more. It is a matter of dollars and cents. It is just a few cents. The dollar bill is fake. He forgot to add the cents. Now let's talk about add. That add, ADD, is going to be flagged. And the reason why is because newspaper ad, AD, is written just as AD. So I like to think of that as, well, the newspaper ad is spelled AD. It's the shorter of the two, so we don't have to flag it. ADD, as in add up the math, is ADD. It's a little bit longer, so we're going to flag that one. So make sure you make a little note there. You want to flag ADD. Okay. Now, this is the page that I've been talking about, transcribing dollar amounts. You do not have to write any of this as part of the homework. This is information only, but it pertains to all of your dollar amounts. So it's very important that you know how you listen to this. Don't fast forward. Otherwise, you're not going to know how to transcribe once we have a test on dollar amounts, okay? So transcribing dollar amounts for information only, not part of the transcription homework. But you need to know this for theory tests, speed test, and once you get out in the working field, okay? Very important that you understand this. When there are no cents, you do not type the decimal and the 00. Very important. So if I say $450, I'm not going to transcribe it as 450.00. Okay, we simply do it just like it shows. $450. That's it. And if that were a sentence, you would have the period right after that. Okay. Line 2. When the amount is a million or above, million, billion, you transcribe it as follows: 45 million. You spell out million, not 45, 000, 000. Okay, we don't do it that way. Okay, and this all pertains to court reporting. When you get out in the real world, this is how you're going to transcribe it as well. Okay, so it's very important that you understand this. So if I say billion, again, you're not going to put all the zeros. You're simply going to spell out BILLION. That's only for million and billion. Does not apply to 100, 100 or 1,000 numbers. Okay, now let's look at the next one. $45 billion. How do I know it's dollars? I see the dollar sign. But some people want to write $ 45 billion, and then they spell out dollars after that. That dollar sign already shows that dollars was spoken. That's how we know that dollars was spoken. So if you write out or spell out dollars after that, that's like saying $45 billion dollars. Okay, so that's why we don't spell out dollars. We have the dollar sign to show that dollars was spoken. Okay, let's look at the next one. 45,000. Again, this is not a number that's in the millions or billions, so we don't spell out thousand. Okay, let's look at the next number. 4,500. Again, we don't spell out hundred. That's only for million and billion. It's just 4,500, 4500. How do I know it's 4,500 and not 4,500? Because there's no comma there. Okay, this number is spoken as 4,500 and is transcribed with no comma. There's no dollar sign, so dollars is not spoken, and we don't transcribe it with the dollar sign. Let's look at the next number, very similar, but this one has a comma, so it's spoken as 4,500. Now there's no dollar sign, so we're not going to say dollars. Again, dollars is not spoken because there's no dollar sign and there is a comma, so it's 4,500. The last number here, this number has a dollar sign, so we're going to say dollars. It also has a comma there, so this number is spoken as $4,500. Okay, because there is a dollar sign. Now, if there wasn't a dollar, or excuse me, if there wasn't a comma but a dollar sign, it would be $4,500. All right, so those are your examples there. Let's see, part 3, it says compound numbers are hyphenated when written out. So if you get somebody that says, I am 26, you can either use the number 26 or you can write it as, you can spell it out. That is okay. Either way is okay with that. But if you do write it out, spell it out, you're going to have to hyphenate it. So notice that 26 is hyphenated, 58 is hyphenated, 99. Now, any numbers that are 10 or under, we always spell out. He is a 9-year-old dog. You're going to spell it out, N-I-N-E. Okay? But any numbers that start with, let's see, 21 and above, they're compound numbers. They're going to be hyphenated. They're spelled out or written out. Okay? Over at the next sheet, it's transcribing dollar amounts that continue. And this is very nice because it shows you on the left the dictated way. This is how you would, this is the way the person would dictate it or say it. Okay, the middle section is how you would write it on your machine, and the transcribed section is over on the far right. That's how you would transcribe it if it were a test or if you were out in the real world. So let's look at the first one. $3,200. Perfect example. Now that they're showing you right there. It's a compound number, so they have it hyphenated. They're showing us that because we want to know how to say it. $3,200. And we're going to write that on our machine as 3, come back for 2, come back for hun, come back for final DZ. And it's transcribed without a comma, the number sign 3200. $3,200. So again, it's showing how to write it on your machine. And over on the far right, how it's transcribed, it's with a comma, the number dollar sign 3,200. The next line, $100. So on our machine, we're going to write $100. The way that we would transcribe that is dollar sign 100. Now, very important here, star this one if you have to. If somebody says $100 or $1,000 or anything, you have to write A. Even if you know they mean one, you have to write A, and that's going to be spelled out always. That's a rule. So highlight that if you need to. So if I say $100, you are going to write A, hun, DLAR, and then come back for final Z. Because we are telling our software we want that spelled out as a word, $100. $1,000, and so on. And it tells you there at the note down at the bottom, when A is spoken in place of 1, you must transcribe this number using words as in the above example. Also note that the word dollar is also written to show the software that you want the word dollar to be spelled out, okay? We don't want the dollar sign as opposed to the dollar sign because they said A, so everything has to be written out. The same goes, I want you to make a little note underneath this, if someone says and. So if somebody says $10.05, okay, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to use and when you go to transcribe it, you would transcribe it as in words, T-E-N, $10, D-O-L-L-A-R-S, and A-N-D, 5, spell out 5 cents, C-E-N-T-S, same thing, okay? So our lives are much easier when people do not say and when they say one as opposed to a. I had a deposition once where the gal kept saying $10.50. That year I made $20.50 an hour, and every time she would say and, I would think, oh man, I'm gonna have to transcribe this. You know, that was even before we had software, so we had to go through and, you know, physically write everything, go home and rewrite everything that from our notes. So that was tough. So once in a while you'll get somebody that does that, or they'll say, I made $100 that day instead of $100, and you want to just say, oh, excuse me, please say 100 as opposed to a. Then they'll look at you like you're crazy. What do you mean? All right. So if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, go back and really look over your numbers. It's a lot to think about, but I promise you the more practice you get, the easier it'll get. And it's not, once you go get through a test with numbers, you'll see that it's not as bad as it looks on paper. It can be kind of overwhelming when you see it on paper, but once you hear it in writing and write it, it's not as bad as you think. I promise. All right, 26.7 is a word drill. Okay, this is the theory principle, initial silent H. We write the initial H even though it's silent to avoid conflicts. And there's a example right here for us. So even though it doesn't conflict with every word, we don't have time when you've got somebody writing or reading at 200 words a minute or speaking at 200 words a minute. You do not have time to sit there and think, oh, does that conflict or not? Do I need an H with that or not? No, we don't have time for that. So we just make it across the board. If it has a silent H, we still use the H. So let's look at the first line. Honest. H-O-N, come back for E-F-T. Honor. H-O-N, come back for O-R. And it's not on or, it's honor. So that's why we come back we don't come back for a long O. Herb. Okay, H-E-R-B, herb. Hour. What hour did you go to sleep last night? H-O-U-R, hour. And then here's an example, hour. Our car is outside, O-U-R. So we do want you to include that hour in the homework because we want you to get used to writing both of them. Okay. All right. 26.8 are practice sentences using your silent H words. Just a reminder, the second sentence, first sentence there, it says he is paid by the hour. We cannot phrase by the because it would conflict with bit, B-I-T. When you get into speeds, if you want to phrase by the, you can flag it. That's what I do, but don't do it in theory. So once you get into speeds, by the comes up often. So just easier to phrase it and then flag it. Okay, I like to flag the phrase, but you can flag either the word bit or by the, whatever one you want. Okay, line 5, second sentence, it says honor your mother and father. Don't forget the briefs for mother and father, M-A-U-R, F-A-U-R. Line 7, second sentence, use another herb in the soup. Soup is a long U, S long U-P, soup. Okay. 26.9 are briefs. We've got some new briefs. Accept. I accept your apology. S-E-P. Accept. Receive. S long E final V. Receive. Building. Initial B final L-G. Different. D-I-F. Different. Difference. D-I-F-S. Difficult. D-I-L-T, dilt. Advance, B-A-N-S, advance. Advantage, V-A-N-G. Advantageous, V-A-N-G, come back for U-S, advantageous. Line 4, we have north and south. So north is going to be initial N, final GT. South is going to be initial S, final GT. Certain, S-E-R-N. I am certain about it. Certainly, S-E-R-N-L. 26.10 is just a brief drill. So make sure you separate each one with a comma. 26.11 is our practice sentences using your new briefs. If you look at line 2, how high are your receivables? Our brief is received. So the way you would write receivables would be S, long E, final V, come back for final BL, come back for final Z. So receivable. So we just have to come back for final BL. And line 15 says, is he accepting the failure? Failure can either be written F, long A-L, come back for U-R, or F, long A-L, come back for long U-R. Either one works. Kind of like picture, fixture. The next sentence, he accepts the trophy tonight. Trophy can either be written as T-R, long O-F, come back for A-E, or T-R, long O, come back for F-A-E. Either one works. Either trophy or trophy. Either one works. Line 16, second sentence says he wants in advance and pay. Want. You can either write it with a broad A, W-A-U-N-T, or the way it's spelled, W-A-N-T. Either one works. 26.11, practice sentences are continued on the next page. Line 18 says, there are many difficulties. Again, you learned the brief for difficult, D-I-L-T, but this is difficulty. So that's going to be written as D-I-L-T, come back for A-E for difficulty, and then final Z for plural, difficulties. Line 20, turn north on Main Street. Main is going to be flagged because it's a particular street, and same with street. We need it capitalized, so we're going to flag it. Anytime you have a particular street name, you have to flag it because it's one syllable. Now, the rule with north and south, anytime you're talking about directions, north, south, east, west, those are lowercase. If you're talking about a location, I was raised in the South, that would be capitalized. So when you're talking about a location, then it is capitalized. He was raised in the Middle East, then it would be capitalized. But if you're talking about directions, then it's lowercase. Okay, 26.12, consonant compounds. All right. Today, our consonant compounds are going to be initial BR and final RTH, which is RGT. So BR, initial BR, and final RTH. So remember the TH, we use the GT. So now we're throwing in the RGT. This is going to be tricky. So I want you to practice those before you even start this section. The reason being is because you've got to get that middle finger up in the air. It can't be lazy. You got to purposely pop it up. RGT. Okay, it's hard for me to do because the keyboard chart is spread out, but your index finger's on the R, the ring finger's on the G, and your pinky's on the T, and you got to keep that middle finger up so it doesn't accidentally brush on the P. Okay, that's how we're going to write these words. So let's look at these words. Braid. BR long AD, broad, that's an aw sound, and it's spelled with a OA, so we can use the broad A, BRAUD, brim, BRIM, bright, BR long IGT, brain, BR long AN, brute, BR long UT, brat, BRAT, breath, BRAEGT, bra. Now bra, you've got bra is kind of like that word want. You can either write it the way it's spelled or the sound. Okay, bra can either be written as B-R-A-U, off, or just B-R-A. Either one works. Broken, B-R long O-K, come back for E-N. Brag, B-R-A-G, brand, B-R-A-N. Brew, B-R long U. Brow, B-R-O-U. Talking about an ow sound, B-R-O-U for the ow. Bread, B-R-E-D, Brad, B-R-A-D. Break. Now this break, don't break the glass, B-R-A-E-K, as opposed to break. Put on the break, B-R long A-K. Broom, B-R-A-O-M, that's a O-O word, so we're going to use our A-O for O-O. Brawl, B-R-A-U-L, aw sound. Broil, B-R-O-I-L. Bribe, B-R long I-B. Broth, now it has an O sound, but it's spelled with an O, so we're going to keep it with an O. B-R-O-G-T. Okay. Brook, B-R-A-O-K. Okay, line 7, birth. Now, here's our earth sounds, which is going to be R-G-T. So, a little challenging. You'll get it down, though, I promise. You've got to practice. Birth, the birth of the baby, B-I-R-G-T. We've got hearth, H-A-E-R-G-T. Mirth, M-I-R-G-T. Earth, A-E-R-G-T. Worth, W-O-R-G-T. That's not a long O. We don't say worth. It's just W-O-R-G-T. Dearth, D-A-E-R-G-T. That means insufficient. Girth, GIR, GT. That's a band on the saddle that secures around the horse's belly. Fourth, F long OR, GT. Berth, that's like a bed on a ship or a train, BERGT. Firth, FIRGT, a narrow inlet by the sea. Airth, that's to guide, long ARGT. Swarth, SWAURGT, that's an area covered in grass. Sparth, SPARGT, a battle axe. Garth, that's a garden, GARGT. Birthday, BIRGT, come back for D long A. Unearth, UN, come back for AERGT. Rebirth, don't forget, that's a prefix. You don't need a long E, so it's just RE, come back for BIRGT. Pennyworth, PEN, come back for AE, come back for WORGT. And we have childbirth, henceforth, after birth, thenceforth, still birth, stalwart. Stalwart means brave, strong, or sturdy. So that would be written as STAUL, come back for W long ORGT. Worth. Okay, so those are your consonant compounds. Looking over Worth. You know what, I take that back. Stalwart. Stall would be STAUL, come back for WORGT. It's not a long O, I apologize. Stalwart. Worth. All right, 26.13, practice sentences using your new consonant compounds. If you look on line 4, second sentence, it says, will you bring a lawsuit? Bring is a brief, and the brief for that is BRI. You could do the NG, but it is a brief, so I wanted to give it to you so that you can highlight it and write it down. So bring, BRI. Okay, that's a brief. Everything else there looks great. You don't have to add any notes to anything. It's all pretty self-explanatory, covers all of the consonant compounds. The only thing I want to remind you of, line 16, it says henceforth, comma, they will not accept checks. Make sure if you see the comma there, you strike your comma. Okay. All right, so that covers lesson 26. Again, if you have any questions about the numbers, the dollar amounts, the cents, anything, million, billion, anything that you might have questions about, please email me and let me know, and I will explain anything that maybe you have questions about. Okay, and don't, if something doesn't show up on your dictionary, don't worry, it's okay. You have a very limited dictionary. Once you get into speeds, you're going to be able to go through and program your software. For instance, you're going to probably go through and make sure that initial M, final L is in your software as a brief. If it's not, you're going to add that as million or billion, initial B, final L. You're going to write numbers, 100, 1, come back for HUN. And then if it doesn't show up as that, you're going to change, you're going to program your software to write 100 if you write 1, come back for HUN, okay? So right now you have a very limited dictionary, so if it doesn't show up, it doesn't mean you're writing it wrong. It just means that it's just not, it hasn't been programmed in there yet, okay? So keep that in mind, and I really encourage you to go back and read your notes, your steno notes, so you learn how to read numbers, because you look at those and it looks very long, and really it's not, but it's learning how to read your steno notes is just as important as writing it phonetically and writing it accurately. It's all, everything is like a puzzle piece. One part is not more important than the other part. Just because you write it correctly doesn't mean that it's not important to know how to read it. Okay, when you get out in the field and they ask you to read back, if you write 100 and you're looking at that and you don't know what it is, let's say it doesn't transcribe for some reason. Let's say your software goes out that day. You're going to have to know how to read your steno notes. Okay, so once you feel comfortable with that, then you go into the read back portion, and I will see you soon in the read back class, and I will dictate sentences regarding this lesson 26. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.